Now we're back.
Oh, no.
What a great turn. What a wonderful start as I immediately make our frame go away. But we're back and we're live and we're hello. Hey, everybody, it's me, Matt.
Hey, everybody, it's Kat.
And that's my mama right there. And we are here to talk about episode 7 of Monsters. It's called Showtime, and this is the precursor to their very first trial. This is them coaching Lyle to have emotion on the stand.
Mm-hmm.
This is the beginning of the trial. This is Lyle making mistake after mistake in prison that ultimately does a lot of damage to their defense in the end.
Sure does.
So that's it. This is episode 7, Showtime. 10th floor reactions in association with JLJ Media. So if you want the audio version of this, search that out, JLJ Media after shows. Well, mother. This episode started with Dominic Dunn. A little splash of his backstory. We saw him in the courtroom overseeing the trial of his own daughter's killer.
Right.
The man of which was being defended by the lawyer that we all know and love, Leslie Abramson. So this is what put the wedge between them. This is what started their conflict. This is what turned Dominic Dunn into such a legal skeptic.
Yes, absolutely.
The events of this. And later on in the episode, we got to actually see a little bit of a reenaction. A little bit piece here and there of what happened to Dominique Dunn, who we all know from Poltergeist.
Right. And, I didn't make that connection. Until they actually said it on the show. Yes, that's Dominique Dunn. Dominic Dunn's daughter, the oldest child on Poltergeist.
Right.
Poltergeist, the brunette teenage girl in Poltergeist was his daughter. Yeah. And I remember that. I remember her being murdered. I remember that she was murdered and by her boyfriend.
Yeah. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, just the different other cases, and we get to see a big one later on, that kind of touch upon this story. Based on the time frame, based on the public thirst for celebrity crime. Because, I mean, it seemed to be case after case after case. I mean, that's what it kind of seems like. At least that's how it's being depicted on the show. It seems like it's case after case of celebrity crime. And the Menendez brothers, I mean, in this episode, I think it was this episode, they mentioned that it's been 3 years. Perhaps, maybe that was in the next one, but it's been years and years at this point in the show of the crime,
they've been in jail a long time.
Spending spree, of the arrest, of the defense, of preparing, of getting to the trial, discovery, all that sort of stuff. If you watch television, I mean, like this thing, it seems like it's lightning fast. You see it all the time in CIS and CSI and in Law and Order. Suddenly they're in the courtroom and it's the midst of the trial. But in real life, it's not like that. It can take a very long time to actually sit in front of a judge.
They'll leave you in jail for a good long time, and then that's and then that's part of your that time is considered part of your sentence.
Sometimes they time served, 7 years plus time served.
Yes.
But I mean, as we find out at the end of this thing, that's not going to be the case for these guys. But they've been in there for a long time, working on this, and in it, we get to see how much, at least the character on television of Lyle. I can't say the real guy. I didn't see the documentaries. I haven't read the books. I didn't watch the tapes. I didn't interview anybody that actually knows this person, but the character on television that I'm seeing, this man is working every angle he can to try to make sure that he gets off from this crime.
I found this interesting.
Yeah.
I saw her on TikTok. Rosie O'Donnell is on TikTok quite a bit, and I follow Rosie O'Donnell on TikTok.
Why not?
Rosie O'Donnell is good friends with the Menendez boys.
Of course she is.
She said on TikTok that she called on the day that Monsters was released. She called them and talked to both of them.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, Yeah. I was like, wow.
Oh my gosh. I guess it's good to still have friends. I mean, it's important to maintain your life when you know that that's where you're going to be forever. Uh, oh gosh. Oh, that just makes me laugh. I don't know why it does. It's just so goofy to me. Hey, it's me, Rosie. It's me, Rosie.
Yeah.
How you doing? All right, so this monsters came out. You okay? Where's your brother? I want to talk to your brother. Yeah, I want to tell him.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So it opens up with this trial. In the aftermath of and Dominic's outburst in the gallery, real or not. I don't know if it was dramatized for television or if this was a real occurrence in the life of Dominic Dunn. But the passion there, and I gotta give it to Nathan Lane, honestly. I think that he's kind of smashing this role in a way that I really wasn't expecting. Because to me,
it's a very serious role for Nathan Lane.
It's very serious. He's still Nathan Lane. You can still hear him. You can still see him. You can still see the Nathan Lane of it all.
Yes.
But it's very subdued. It's not like when you put rest in peace, Leslie Jordan. Leslie Jordan has done a number of Ryan Murphy shows, and he was still always Leslie Jordan, just over the top.
Exactly. I loved him. I thought he was. He was super great. I thought he was so funny. I loved him.
And one of his co-stars from a show that he did shows up in a future episode. She shows up in the
series. I know. I was like she had a sentence or two before I realized, oh my gosh,
Mama?
That was
Mama.
Exactly.
We'll get to that. That's in the season finale, so that's coming up later on, folks. Stay tuned. So kudos to Nathan Lane for what he does in this. I think that he really handles the role well. I feel like there's three characters that really kind of anchor this thing down for me. Three actors, three characters, whatever. One of them is Erik. But I think that's meant to be that way. Like in this episode, we certainly see that the show has doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on Erik being the approachable one, the sensitive one, the honest one.
Yes.
Well, Lyle has been the angry one, the manipulator, the lonely one who is reaching out to random letter writers, spilling his heart out to them, telling the truth of his soul because he needs to get it out somewhere. And boy, did he pick wrong.
He sure did. And he got, and then he confided in the wrong person that was manipulating him.
Yeah, we totally saw the beginnings of that, a little suggestion by the end of this episode, because they were talking, and this had been the second time, and her name is Norma. She wrote, they used an actress and a voiceover actress that had I guess an English type accent and a European one. At the very least, UK, we'll say. I don't know exactly where. I don't know anything about this person, but they meet, they talk, he spills his guts, and by the end of this episode, we can see her with a reel of tapes, notes that she's writing down, and I'm like, oh, Lyle.
But he's not. But he's spilling his guts about things that aren't going to help his case at all.
I don't. So this is so. It's very. Let me try to put my words together here for a second. It is quite the thing to see how this show has come together, because the lens shifts. It seems every single time we get into it, where some things that were treated as a reality, truth, actual thing, in the next episode is treated like it can be complete BS. And we're really seeing that here in these last three episodes, especially the finale. But in this one,
episode 7, that is the one where Lyle's on the stand, right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Weren't you impressed with our Nicholas Alexander?
Nicholas Chavez. It's So
he was so good.
People have gone out there and they've released like side-by-side comparisons, because this was the trial that was filmed and put on TV and people followed with more fervor.
Yes.
So there's a lot more facts, I would think, about what happened in this trial, or at least a lot more information that people just know from following the case than the second one. But in this particular one, people have done side-by-side comparisons where they put the actual testimony up against his. there's been an array of reaction, because there always is. But I think that, yeah, he handled it just fine. Like, he took the material and he moved forward with it. He acted his little butt off best he could.
Well, I don't know. I just find it so interesting. I find it, as watching it, I was thinking the boys are still departmentalizing things. They're still doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very hard for me to decide. It didn't seem, I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's lying, but at the same time, you know, it doesn't seem like he's lying. And especially in the previous episodes where they're just talking with the lawyer and there's no audience, and they're telling the same story and it's the same emotion.
Yeah.
And they don't see, there's no reason to put on anything. And it doesn't, but when they're in trial, yes, Lyle is putting on, but is he really?
See, that's the question that they ask in this episode, right? And then that question carries on for the rest of the series as well. But it starts to get asked in this, because he's sitting there in the beginning half of this episode, getting coached, going through the questions, telling the story, and Leslie says pretty much what you did. Like, I hear you, I believe you, but I don't believe you. But, you know, like, I've heard this stuff before, but now I feel like you're lying about it. Like, before it was convincing, it was full of emotion, it was from the heart. But this is not the same. And it's like, oh, you want me to cry? Okay, I'll cry. So he starts to tell the story again, this time much more sensitive. Tears begin to fall. There's no audience other than these lawyers who asked him to behave this way.
Right.
And at the end of it, she's like, oh man, okay, kick butt. That's where we need to be. Which is the biggest question mark that the show has put on when it comes to the veracity of their claims. If this guy is able to turn it on and off just like that, then he would have been able to turn it on from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think about, and also it made me think about the phone call in the first place when they called 911 and Lyle was on the phone. That was very convincing too. Exactly. Oh my God, I found my murderer's parents. That, you know, that phone call sounded so legitimate, as legitimate as him being on the stand.
Yeah.
It just makes me wonder, was the wrong son trying to be an actor?
I don't know, Mom. I don't know. Because
I don't know. It does make you question.
Yeah, because tonally, when it comes to, you know, how we're approaching these characters on television, you know, we can't approach this like a documentary, because it's not. We've spent so much time over the last couple of, it's shifted, because at first they were like, look at these jerks, and then it shifted into like our sympathetic heroes, these poor doomed boys who just had no other choice or recourse but to do this based off of all of these terrible things that we saw depicted from their point of view, from their story.
The part that I actually believe the least was that Kitty and Jose were actually going to kill them.
Yeah, I think that if that part is true, if they actually felt that way, because that's part of the testimony. He says, you know, it was worried that they were going to kill me. They pulled it out of him, right? That was their defense. You know, this was an act of self-defense, imperfect self-defense, a preemptive self-defense, if you will. And I would say that if they did genuinely feel that way, it was from extreme paranoia and not from actual truth. And I feel like the show has been treating it like that from the beginning, because they haven't really ever shown anything beyond Kitty being like, I'm going to poison you one day. But even in the performance of that by Chloe, and this was in Chloe Sevigny, who plays Kitty, I think it was in the previous episode, just the one before this. Watch the recap, folks. It's on the channel. Where she's like, I'm going to poison you. But even in her performance of that, I didn't believe that she was actually going to try. It sounded like something somebody says in frustration. And then we fast forward to them eating that spaghetti, and they're like, well, what's this dust on it I've never seen before, Mom?
It was just the typical cinnamon, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so, too. Gross, Mother.
Well,
you know, it's a something. And they're like, oh, you're the paranoia spikes.
Yes.
If that part's even true. If that part is even real. If that part was
Exactly.
even
Even if
included
that's
in the
true.
original.
Right. We
So,
don't know where where Mr. Murphy starts and Menendez is in.
yeah, right. Exactly. Especially in this particular telling,
Hmm.
because it seems like there's so much that they have gotten close to accurate, and then also so much that they're just like, who cares? We're
Hmm.
pitching from center field on this one. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
So why do you think they decided to write in that the earthquake and the aftershocks,
So
because the time period is right for that earthquake.
yeah, so
You
that's actually in the next one, and interestingly enough, they actually named the episode about it. It's called Seismic Shifts.
know. Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes. I would imagine they included that because time period, because it happened, and then they were
yeah,
able to use it as metaphors
yeah,
later on, and
yeah,
the timeliness of when they happened in the
yeah,
conversations of the shows, and they were used as punctuation, and when somebody realizes something new. But in
well,
this episode, though, at the end of this episode, we had a bit of a Leslie and Dominic sort of almost
mm-hmm,
seeing eye to eye at the end of it.
mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Well, but not Dominic really didn't want to believe them, but as he sat in the courtroom and watched Lyle's
Mm-hmm.
testimony and watched the trial, he actually believed them.
Yeah,
He
so
didn't want to believe them.
he didn't want to, and even at the end, he's still a dang skeptic
Yes,
because he
but
straight up says, "Hey, I believe what he had to say, but I don't know if because it actually happened or because you're good at coaching people to lie like that."
but you could tell by his expression he was affected emotionally by the
Oh,
testimony.
100%, absolutely. He totally believed that story was true to Lyle at that point.
He did.
Whether it
He
was
did.
true to the timeline is still a question to Dominic Dunn.
But I think it would be hard not to believe Lyle. I mean, that testimony was so compelling and seemed, I mean, he seemed really like a wrecked
Mm-hmm.
human up there.
He seemed like a direct human, but like we saw in the beginning of the episode, though, he was able to turn that humanity on and off.
And he was so cocky,
So cocky. Oh, what a
so
downfall. Oh
cocky.
my gosh. Oh my goodness. What terrible choices to be made. Uh, but that again, that's them. That's them with the tonal shift. We spent 2 episodes of them being monsters, and a couple episodes of them being victims, and now we're kind of a little bit seeing the monster depiction of these two again in a more blended capacity. They're not as
Yes.
like they're not at the Hotel Bel Air with a bunch of paid friends and party favors,
Hmm.
but it's not the sweet, poor, broken, manipulated
No.
boys with the flashbacks of the terrible things and the yelling and the screaming and all of that stuff. We didn't get any of that anymore.
No.
I don't know because I continue throughout all of these recaps and reviews talking about that letter that Erik released a few days ago
Hmm.
now,
Yeah.
where he's like, "This wasn't my brother. He didn't behave like this. He didn't do these things. He
Hmm.
didn't ask my cousin to lie on the stand." But also at the
Hmm.
same time, here's the thing, Ma. I need to do some real research. Netflix in a couple weeks is coming out with a real documentary, the Menendez brothers from their point of view, from their words.
Oh,
Yeah, so Netflix was ready for the
wow.
fallout of this thing and a follow up with a well, here's what may have really happened.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is kind of cool. So I got to do more research because all of these little bits and pieces of the story that happened, like him sending letters and calling these people in to talk to them and be like, hey, watch this movie and say that my dad and I watched it and he never believed that blah 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 blah.
Right.
Trying to get his current girlfriend to be like, oh, tell him that my dad touched you or all this sort of stuff. I don't know how much of that is real or how much of that is them trying to paint Lyle as a particular type of person
Hmm.
for the
Hmm.
sake of the show.
Hmm.
And that's unfortunate because I gotta do more research to be good at this, don't I?
But it seemed like, like as soon as he left the courtroom, he was just so cocky all the time.
He
And,
was
and,
so
and it didn't
convinced.
matter. And he didn't, and he wasn't careful about what he said in front of any different
No,
individual.
no, I guess it's more evidence that they're just not very good at this.
No, and he was like, and he was told Erik, oh, Rob Lowe should play you. And he was just reveling in the celebrityness of the whole thing.
Yeah, well,
He was loving it.
He was excited. I mean, it could have been also another example of hyper focus of latching onto that best case scenario.
They were pretty certain. They were pretty certain, especially Lyle, that that the verdict was going to go their way.
Yeah, and I can
He was
understand
pretty certain.
that. I can understand. I mean, things were going very well.
It was.
And
it
the
was.
way that they depicted it too, which is very different than how they depict the trial in the last episode. You know, before we get too deep into that, there's a full episode of Just Trial coming up. So at this point, we should probably just hop over to that.
Yeah.
I liked. I mean, just to put a button on it, Dominic and Leslie kind of saw eye to eye at the end, and I liked it. So I like the little bits of other story that they put in there.
Yeah.
We even got to see that Leslie walks away with a baby of her own.
Yeah, they adopted the baby after all. Yes, that's
That's really exciting to see.
Yeah, they did adopt their baby.
That unlike what we expected, because we were like, oh my God, she's doomed. Her and her husband are doomed. This case is going to ruin them. Doesn't seem to have done that.
It didn't seem to do that.
All right, folks. Well, hey, stay tuned to the channel because we're gonna be done talking about this one, and we're gonna go straight into episode 8.
Yes.
Seismic shifts, earthquakes, the trial itself. Erik takes the stand, and it all blows up.
Sure does.
So all that and more, everybody stay tuned to the 10th floor. I've been Matt.
I've been Kat.
And we'll catch you just in a couple of minutes. Just click on it right now. Go ahead, just right now. Just click on it. Because we're going to be right back. We're going to be right back. Catch us on the audio at JLJ Media After Shows with 80 other options. Check all that out. See you soon. Bye.
Okay.